In the 1970s, television was a shared national ritual, and Demon Wilson was part of that ritual in millions of homes every single week. As Lamont Sanford, he stood toe-to-toe with one of the most commanding comedic forces of the era, delivering grounded, heartfelt performances that balanced chaos with sincerity. At the height of his popularity, when success usually tightens its grip, Wilson did something almost unheard of in Hollywood. He stepped back. Not because the offers stopped and not because audiences lost interest, but because something inside him shifted. Fame had delivered recognition, stability, and opportunity, yet it failed to provide fulfillment. While the world assumed momentum would carry him endlessly forward, Wilson paused to question what all of it was truly worth. That moment of reflection would quietly redirect the entire trajectory of his life and career, becoming Lamont Sanford Demon. Wilson's breakout came in 1972 with Sanford and Son, an American adaptation that quickly became a cultural phenomenon. Cast as Lamont Sanford, the responsible son to Red Fox's loud, scheming Fred Sanford, Wilson played the emotional anchor of the show. He was just 26 years old, yet he carried himself with a maturity that grounded every scene. While Fred delivered outrageous humor, Lamont provided heart, logic, and restraint. The chemistry between Wilson and Fox felt authentic, like a real family dynamic shaped by love, frustration, and loyalty. Week after week, audiences tuned in not just for laughs, but for the connection. At its peak, the show ranked among the highest-rated programs on television, making Wilson a familiar, trusted presence in American living rooms. His success came fast, loud, and unmistakably permanent. Life after the hit show. When Sanford and Son ended its original run, Demon Wilson didn't vanish. He continued working steadily, taking on new television roles and exploring film opportunities. Projects like Baby, I'm Back, and The New Odd Couple demonstrated his desire to grow beyond Lamont Sanford and challenge audience expectations. He proved he wasn't defined by one character, even one as iconic as Lamont. Still, something was changing beneath the surface. While his career remained active, his internal compass was shifting. The entertainment industry thrives on constant forward motion, but Wilson began to feel disconnected from that rhythm. Success had given him visibility, yet it had also introduced pressure, excess, and exhaustion. The applause grew quieter in his mind, replaced by deeper questions about identity, purpose, and what kind of life he truly wanted to build beyond the screen. A search for meaning beyond applause. Sometime after his peak television years, Demon Wilson experienced a profound personal awakening. The fame that once felt thrilling began to feel hollow, and the lifestyle surrounding it no longer aligned with his values. Rather than ignoring that discomfort, he leaned into it. Wilson began studying spirituality, faith, and personal responsibility with the same intensity he once brought to acting. This wasn't a surface-level change or a passing phase. It was a full recalibration of priorities. He spoke openly in later years about how success had left him feeling unfulfilled, and how chasing external validation nearly cost him his sense of self. Faith offered him structure, meaning, and grounding. It wasn't an escape from reality, but a return to it. For Wilson, this transformation wasn't about retreat. It was about realignment. Choosing conviction over visibility. As his beliefs deepened, Demon Wilson made choices that surprised many around him. He became selective, turning down opportunities that conflicted with his values. In an industry built on compromise, that kind of conviction often comes at a cost. Wilson accepted that cost without resentment. He understood that visibility wasn't the same as purpose, and that staying constantly relevant wasn't worth sacrificing inner peace. Over time, he stepped further away from mainstream acting, not out of bitterness, but clarity. He dedicated himself to ministry, teaching, and writing, using his voice in a different way. To some, it looked like walking away. To Wilson, it felt like stepping into alignment. He wasn't chasing approval anymore. He was building a life that made sense to him, even if it puzzled the world watching from the outside. A long silence that wasn't empty, demoned. Wilson's extended absence from acting is often described as a hiatus, but that word understates the fullness of his life during those years. Away from cameras, he was deeply engaged in spiritual leadership, authorship, and community work. He wrote books exploring faith, discipline, and personal accountability, drawing from his own experiences, navigating fame and loss of direction. While Hollywood thrives on constant output, Wilson found value in stillness and service. He wasn't worried about being forgotten because he wasn't measuring his worth by public memory anymore. These decades weren't empty or wasted. They were formative, reflective, and intentional. He traded the noise of the industry for a quieter sense of purpose, proving that a meaningful life doesn't require constant visibility. Sometimes the most important chapters are the ones lived away from an audience. Returning with intention. When Damon Wilson eventually returned to acting later in life, it wasn't for momentum or nostalgia. It was for meaning. His final on-screen appearances were chosen carefully, reflecting a man who no longer needed validation from success. He approached his work with calm confidence, grounded by decades of lived experience outside the spotlight. The pressure was gone. What remained was craft, discipline, and sincerity. His return wasn't about reclaiming fame, but about completing a personal circle. After years of service and introspection, stepping back into storytelling felt intentional rather than demanding. Audiences who noticed his return saw a performer shaped by time, not diminished by it. His presence carried weight precisely because it was rare. Wilson demonstrated that stepping away doesn't weaken talent. It can refine it, deepen it, and give it purpose. Redefining what legacy means. Damon Wilson will always be remembered as Lamont Sanford, but that role tells only part of his story. His greater legacy lies in the choices he made when the cameras stopped rolling. He showed that success doesn't have to own you, and that it's possible to walk away without bitterness. In a culture obsessed with staying visible, Wilson modeled the courage it takes to step back and live authentically. He proved that faith, family, and personal integrity can matter more than applause. His life reminds us that careers can have seasons, and that stepping out of one doesn't erase what came before. Instead, it adds depth. Wilson didn't reject his past. He expanded upon it. He lived as an actor, a teacher, a minister, and a thoughtful human being navigating purpose beyond fame. Walking your own path. Damon Wilson's journey offers a quiet but powerful lesson. It's okay to choose a different definition of success. He reached the height of television fame and discovered that fulfillment required something more grounded. Rather than forcing himself to fit the industry's expectations, he reshaped his life around conviction, service, and meaning. That decision took courage, patience, and humility. His story challenges the idea that walking away equals failure. Sometimes it's an act of wisdom. Wilson's legacy isn't just found in reruns or punchlines, but in the integrity of a life lived intentionally. He reminds us that the spotlight is optional, purpose is personal, and fulfillment doesn't follow a single script. In choosing his own path, Damon Wilson showed that the bravest roles are often the ones we play when no one is watching.